everyone, and a happy Victober to you. I swear I get tingles when I say that. This is my very first Victober video that I am filming. I don't know when in the lineup in the month it's coming, but here it is, the first video, and this is going to be a bit of a series. I wanted to show you all of the Victorian literature that I own. This is going to be quite the undertaking because with any of the books that have illustrations in them, I'm going to show you some B-roll shots of those illustrations just so you can have a good idea of these editions. And without further ado, I will just start showing you the books. I'm going to pay attention to the clock, like I think I said that, and maybe when I get to 10 to 12 minutes, I'll end that video and start the next part of the tour. So the first one that I own is Christina Rossetti's Poems and Prose. The main catalyst for me wanting to get this was that Maud, which is a story written by Christina Rossetti, was included in this, and it's very hard to find. But I also was under the impression that it was a full-length novel, and I got very excited. Christina Rossetti has written a full-length novel, but it's not. It's a story. But I read it aloud as a Patreon event earlier this year, and it was a somewhat simple story, but her writing, it just really affects you, and I can still very much vividly remember what happens in that book. So one of the things that I think I feel a bit of a kinship to Christina Rossetti is because she had a chronic illness. And so that definitely comes through in Maud. Now, this is going to be very slow going for me. Her poetry is very rich. And I got sidetracked with doing other projects. I was going to try to finish it in a year, and then I just felt too much pressure because of all the other Victorian literature that I'm trying to get through. So I haven't managed this well. I've only gotten about 75 pages in, but there have been several poems that have utterly blown me away. Others that I'm kind of like, yeah, that was fine. And then I move on. But yeah, so this is the collection, and it includes, let's see here. So tons and tons of poems, hundreds of poems, and then devotional prose. So I think some are her diary. Yeah, there's portions from her diary written. And then there's a devotional commentary on the apocalypse, which is so fascinating. And then a few letters to her brother and a couple other assorted people. So that is really interesting to me. And then the next one, the only Dickens finished novel that I haven't read, and that is The Old Curiosity Shop. One of these days I will make time for it, but I really burnt out on Dickens after doing my Dickens project. And there were just so many misses for me in the project. And so I haven't worked up the courage to do it. So when I feel like it, I will be reading this. This edition looks like it would have illustrations, but it does not, which is surprising to me. And then I have to hug this before I show it to you because I adore it to pieces. And that is The Heir of Redclyffe. This book, it's like I get teary-eyed, misty-eyed just thinking about it. Is so special to me, and I'm so glad that I have a copy. Unfortunately, this is getting harder to find. Maybe the more the word about The Heir of Redclyffe gets out and the few used copies online that are there kind of happen. Yeah, so I love this. I treasure this. I'm never getting rid of this. Even though I could have a Kindle copy of it, I really like having this copy of it. Then a newer acquisition for this year, and that is The Young Pretenders by Edith Henrietta Fowler. So this I had heard about from Katie at Books and Things, and I went in not really sure what to expect. I knew it was about a precocious little girl and her brother, and how they have kind of guardians that are taking care of them. And I was a bit underwhelmed as I started the book because also her writing style is very distinct and different from anybody else I had read. And so I just was really taken aback. But after I finished the book, I thought, you know what, that was a really lovely book, maybe a bit simpler than I was anticipating, but it's one that I will definitely go back and reread. So I was very charmed by Babs, the little girl. I think her personality was just so charming to me. Then the next one is Emily Bronte's poetry collection, which is so unbelievably beautiful looking. This color, there are no illustrations in this one. It is just, I love these pocket poets, Everyman's Library pocket poets. I have a few of these. And unfortunately, I'm a bit out of my depth with Emily Bronte's poetry. So it's a project, you know, I'll continue coming back to some of her poems throughout my life, but I didn't fall in love with this like I was hoping I was going to. And then we have here Romola, which is just quite the book. I did a reread of this earlier this year with my friends Mary from Mary Among Stories, Milena from Milena Reads, I think that's her channel name, and Petra from Petra U. And it was so lovely to discuss this book with these ladies and just to hear their insights. This is set in Medici era Florence, which is such a departure from your normal Victorian settings, one always being in England and being contemporary for that time period. Although Victorians did enjoy historical fiction, so I would love to start a project of compiling kind of historical novels that were written in the Victorian era. Whenever I search Victorian historical fiction, it's always stuff that's written now, set in the Victorian era. Anyhow, yeah, this is just, it's such a powerful book. It is dense, it's challenging, but it will reward you so much. Then a newer book that I am so delighted to have. I bought this, I guess it would have been in May, and that is Miss Miles by Mary Taylor. And this is one I'm very excited to read this Victober. I hope it doesn't let me down. Yeah, I would just really, really love to fall in love with this book. We'll see if I do. Then one that I am currently reading, and that is Aurora Lee by Elizabeth Barrett Browning. This is a narrative poem. Elizabeth Barrett Browning was married to Robert Browning. They had quite the romance. And I am reading this with Roz from Skallydandling About the Books, and then a few other commenter friends, and we're really enjoying this. It is challenging, but I kind of expect that with any Victorian poetry. Emily Bronte's was so challenging that I felt like, I don't know, did I get anything out of that? I'm not sure, but this is like, okay, this is really powerful. It's the story of Aurora Lee, and in the beginning, she is proposed to by her cousin Romney, and is not interested in marrying him. She basically just wants to spend time with her books. She wants to be free and spend time with her books. So I think there are 8 books total. Oh, 9 books total, and I have just finished book 4, and I am late. I need to finish book 5 for the month of June. Then I have Letters from Egypt, A Journey on the Nile, by Florence Nightingale. This is one I was planning on reading kind of over the course of the year, and then I just haven't made time for that. So I'm hoping maybe over Victober, I'll make some good headway through it. I have really enjoyed the small, the smidgen of this that I have read, and it's just such a visual feast. I love how it's organized, and it just is so enticing to continue through. So this is one I'm really glad to own, and I'm glad that I was able to find it online. And then we have Middlemarch now. Very exciting. The bookmark in here is from where my husband is reading this. Yeah, so he is reading this. He is only, though, 29 pages. So I asked for my birthday this year, not a gift in a box, but for him to read Middlemarch. So he started, and then he said, you know what, Kate, I don't like to read books super slowly, so I'll have it read by your birthday. And supposedly he's going to read it, and then we're going to film a Victober discussion video on Middlemarch. I love this book so much. And I read it for the first time, I think it was 2017 maybe, or 2016, I think that's when it was. And I came out not really enjoying it, not having enjoyed it that much, but I got myself a trophy. And this was at Barnes & Noble. I love this Penguin Classics Deluxe Edition. And I treated myself to this. And you can see this is supposed to be kind of like all the community of Middlemarch. And I love the end flaps and yeah, French flaps, that's what they're called. And so I'm so glad that I treated myself to this, because now it has become one of my most beloved Victorian novels. And I adore this book so much. So really happy that I have my own copy. And then the next one was one that my grandmother gifted me. And this was her copy of The Tenant of Wildfell Hall. Now, if you have followed me for any amount of time, you know that this is really a Victorian novel I do not enjoy. I don't understand the hype, but it's such a beautiful copy. It's from my grandmother, so I'm keeping it on my shelf, and my hope is that someday something drastically will change and I will fall in love with this book. In the meantime, it's a beautiful copy to have on the bookshelf, and it has some really kind of unusual illustrations. I wouldn't say I love the illustrations, but I do like having illustrations in a book. Okay, the next one that I have is Sylvia's Lovers by Mrs. Gaskell is on this edition. This is an Everyman's Library edition, and I think this came out, if I am, oh, I like these end papers. It's just E and L for Everyman's Library, but I wanted to see, when did this come out? 1964. And it also, oh, I just noticed it has an introduction by Arthur Pollard. So I have never heard of Arthur Pollard. And I just found this in a used bookstore, and I love Sylvia's Lovers. So I thought, I want this really just sweet edition. So I was toying with reading Sylvia's Lovers this Victober. So future Kate will know whether that happened or not. And then I have a few editions of Wuthering Heights. So here's this one, which I know Katie from Books and Things has a fair amount of these collector's library. And these dust flaps I'm not wild about, but what I really love is this beautiful red and then the bright gold. I think gold and red look so beautiful together. So yeah, these little collector's library editions and then the gold edges on the pages. So this is just a really cozy little edition to have. And I totally understand why Katie loves this size for a novel. Then I have this, what is this called? Arcturus Classic edition of Wuthering Heights. I love Arcturus Classics because my pet peeve with classic book covers is when it's just a generic painting like plopped on something, which is how it was the trend for many, many years for that to be. I feel like the 1960s through 2000, that was like the thing that you did. So I'm really pleased when there's a company that comes out with kind of a unique cover that has something to do with the book. You feel like the cover designer actually read the book. Sometimes with the painting covers, you're not sure. So yes, I really love this edition. I haven't actually read from this one, so at some point I will. Then I have the Paper Mill Press edition of Wuthering Heights. I really like the Paper Mill Press. It's called it's not, I think a soft cover is what it's called, but it's got these beautiful emerald green end papers. And oh, there is also a ribbon. So always love when a book comes with a ribbon, and it does feel more Victorian to have a ribbon as the bookmark. Oh yeah, and then it has a quote on the back. Be with me always, take any form, drive me mad, only do not leave me in this abyss where I cannot find you. Oh God, it is unutterable. I cannot live without my life. I cannot live without my soul. So as Adam from Memento Mori said, the people in Wuthering Heights are constantly at a level 11 with their emotions, and he is not wrong. So yes, I really love this edition. And then I have one more very special edition to show you. I don't know where it is, but I will show it. It's in the stacks somewhere. Then we have here my paperback of Wives and Daughters. I have toyed with, I've seen pretty affordable used copies of the Folio Society collection of Elizabeth Gaskell's books. While the covers themselves, they are beautiful, beautiful books, there are no illustrations in them. And I thought, I don't know if I'm willing to splurge on something that has no illustrations. So yeah, there is, I might at some point. Then I have my Barnes & Noble paperback edition of Agnes Gray. I said in another video how I used to be kind of snobby about Barnes & Noble paperbacks. And now I'm like, I wish I bought so many in them. They have great notes. There's always an introduction. Maybe not always, but almost every time there's an introduction. And they're really easy to open and hold open. So yes. And then I have here, this is a very used copy, so I have put tape on the sides, Hester by Margaret Oliphant. This is a book that I want to love. And earlier this year, I read The Perpetual Curate, which is part of her Carlingford Chronicles, and I fell head over heels in love with it. I am really glad that I haven't gotten rid of this, so I'm going to keep Hester in the hopes that I will fall in love with it at some point. And I do not like Miss Marchbanks like everyone does. And it was such a struggle for me to get through. I'm pretty sure it was a Victober group read. Such a struggle for me to get through. And so I don't think I'll return to that one. But this one and then ones later in the Carlingford Chronicles I want to return to. All right, that is part 1 of a tour of all my Victorian books. I hope that you are enjoying this, and I will be back with another Victober video soon. Please comment down below if there is a Victorian book, story, novella, poetry collection, something that you are reading Victorian that you are thoroughly enjoying. And I will see you for another video soon. Bye!